It's a picture.
A few nights ago, unless I put it on video. Yeah. A few nights ago, we had the 19th day of Kislev, which was the anniversary when the first, what we now call the Rebbe of Chabad, but in fact then there was no movement called Chabad, but this first Rebbe of this Chassidic movement was liberated from prison in St. Petersburg in 1798. A humorous anecdote is told in that regard, that after the perestroika in Russia, and so there was actually a school teacher in Leningrad or Petersburg, not Jewish, as is often the case, but it was a Jewish school. And the teacher says, what happened in 1798? It was a Chabad school, in fact, and so one of the children raises his hand and says, in 1798, the first Rebbe of Chabad, Rabbi Shneur Zalman, was liberated from prison. The teacher gets very upset. No, that's not a good answer. Who knows if there was such a rabbi, and who knows if this ever happened, and who cares? Who cares that the Rebbe of Chabad, this is a Russian history lesson, and what's important is that in 1798, Alexander Pushkin was born. And, okay, so then the teacher goes on, says, okay, who can tell me what happened in 1812? And so one of the kids raises his hand. He's trying to get on the right track now. He says, yes, what is he? He says, well, Alexander Pushkin had his bar mitzvah. Anyway. But in any case, the Rebbe of Chabad had some very, very interesting, powerful sayings, also long books. And one of his sayings was that all of the angels, but even not only angels, which are like a kind of a persona, but even the highest, he called them emanations in the spiritual worlds, they will give up all of these very exalted spiritual revelations to which they have access, and we don't actually, in order to one time be able to say with a physical mouth, Amen, Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach, which is a response in the Kaddish, And it said that when the Alter Rebbe, that's what he's called, made this declaration that for a year, everyone was saying Amen Yehei Shmei Rabbah with a fire, like with enthusiasm. So it for sure is true about the study of Torah as well. So you're all being given as a gift this little packet, and you can follow along. I'm not following the English version exactly, and I do want to. Yes, okay. I'm looking at the clock. I do try to stick to the times that I people like that I find. So we're going to study about Chanukah, but I've discovered that we have kind of a leitmotif, and I want to remember now. So you're Lauren, and I forgot your name.
Sam.
You're Sam. Okay, good. Okay, Sam brings back memories of my own home. Uncle Sam. And so there are previous lectures that I've given on the parshiyot, the portions of the Torah, and in a way, there's been a kind of a continuity of a certain theme, and it was mentioned some weeks ago. And it is remotely possible that some of you didn't catch this lecture, so just in case someone didn't listen to it, and you weren't yet in the group, we mentioned about the people, Jacob and Esau, and who classically in Jewish lore are kind of cast as the good guy and the bad guy, and what we explained there, that this could not be the case. It can happen, but we can't say that the fate of Esau was to be the bad guy. Everyone is meant to do something positive, but they were two modes of serving God, and we explained, according to Maimonides, that there's one mode of the person who is naturally inclined towards good and does good, another person who is naturally inclined towards negative and overcomes that and also does good. But that these are both two modes that are necessary. Keep in mind that these are two sons of Yitzchak, one of our forefathers, meaning that this is actually a prototype for all of us. Many of us may feel more like the Esav than the Yaakov, depending on what are, as we discover where the bar is. Some people are sure that they're Yaakov. I only want to do good. But some people's idea of doing good is also limited. But in any case, so the Rambam, Maimonides, calls Yaakov the Ish Chassid, the naturally good person. And Esav he refers to as the Kovesh et Yitzcho in Hebrew, which means the one who has to conquer his nature. Now let's come to Chanukah, because we have a similar theme here as well. And I'm going to connect it back to this week's portion, which is called Miketz, which continues the story of Yosef after he becomes the vice monarch in Egypt. And then he starts his own family with his two sons, Manasseh and Ephraim, also twins. No, sorry, not exactly right. But again, a pair of brothers, and we'll see a parallel there also with Yaakov and Esav. So the Rambam concludes Maimonides in his Rukh, the Mishnah Torah, which, in case you don't know, he was the first author to compile all of the laws of the Talmud into one work. It's called the Mishnah Torah. It was written approximately 800 years ago. And he concludes with an interesting question. Friday night will be Chanukah, Friday night will be Shabbat, and we should have a lamp, so to speak, a Shabbat candles, and we should have also a Chanukah candle. We should light the Chanukah one first, right? Because you don't want to do that after the Shabbat candle. And the reason is when you light the Shabbat candle, you're accepting the Shabbat, so then you don't want to do something else. And the question is, and there's all kinds of dilemmas like this. What if you can't afford to buy the oil and the wick for Shabbat candle and the oil and the wick for the Chanukah candle? The same thing, what if you can't afford to buy wine? What if you can't afford to buy chalot, bread,